The caisson was advancing smoothly, turning steadily as it plunged deeper into the mysterious depths of Oak Island. With each rotation, the massive steel casing seemed to drop more easily, indicating minimal resistance and encouraging sign. Observers noted the rate at which it descended, marveling at how much it dropped with every twist. It was a clear signal that good progress was being made. This was no ordinary day. It was one charged with a sense of unrivaled hope and high anticipation, particularly centered around the most legendary and enigmatic part of Oak Island, the Money Pit. For over 2 centuries, countless treasure seekers had come to this very place, all driven by whispers of hidden riches and the clues left behind by those who came before. Now, with state-of-the-art equipment and a dedicated team of experts, Rick and Maudie Lagina and their team stood on the brink of potential discovery. The pressure readings coming from deep within the shaft began to tell their own story. They were starting to drop, a telltale sign that the team had broken through a previously compacted layer and were now pushing into looser material, possibly something man-made or disturbed long ago. To seasoned diggers, that kind of pressure drop suggested they might have just passed through something significant. It raised the thrilling possibility that they were on the verge of finding something historic. At this point in the excavation, the dig had reached a depth of about 95 feet. That put the team within only a few feet of a particularly important target area, one they had been eagerly anticipating. It was a location that multiple data sets had identified as promising. After breaking ground just a week earlier, progress had been swift and methodical. Under the oversight of Vanessa Lucida and her team from ROC Equipment, and with collaboration from experts including those from SB Canada, the project had become the most ambitious shaft excavation on Oak Island in recent memory. The shaft they were using, nicknamed True Believer 1 or TB1, was a massive, 7-foot wide steel caisson engineered to penetrate the island's tricky and unstable ground. By this point, TB1 had reached a depth of nearly 100 feet, and all signs pointed to it being located within the perimeter of the original Money Pit. There were several compelling reasons to believe this was the case. Firstly, recent groundwater testing conducted near this shaft had revealed elevated levels of precious metals such as gold and silver, particularly just below the 100-foot mark. These findings strongly supported the theory that a treasure cache or some other valuable material might still be buried below. Secondly, during earlier excavation efforts in the same vicinity, the team had uncovered remnants of what appeared to be a wooden tunnel, another key indicator that they were working in an area of past human activity. Third, and perhaps most significantly, previous core drilling operations from earlier in the year had recovered what was thought to be evidence of the fabled Chappell Vault. This mysterious container, reportedly discovered by treasure hunters Frederick Blair and William Chappell back in 1897, was said to be a 7-foot-high wooden chest or chamber encased in concrete. Their discovery, approximately 150 feet, had long tantalized theorists and excavators alike. Now, over a century later, modern technology and fresh ambition were once again homing in on the same depth and region. Curiously, the steel casing had encountered very little resistance during its last few feet of descent, almost as if it were gliding effortlessly through the earth. This anomaly prompted speculation. Could it be that they had struck a patch of soft soil or loose sand? Or perhaps they had entered a cavity and air-filled space left behind by tunneling centuries ago. The notion of a void was especially intriguing, as such spaces are often associated with hidden chambers or support structures. They were now within only a few feet, roughly 3.5 from what they called the first target horizon. This target zone, estimated to lie between 98.5 and 99 feet, had been identified through previous scans and data as the top of what might be an underground tunnel. It was a pivotal moment. To approach this depth with a massive tool like TB1 required both precision and patience. As the shaft descended, the team began using an 18.5-ton tool known as a hammer grab. This massive claw-like instrument was capable of scooping up heavy loads of earth, wood, and stone from the bottom of the shaft and bringing them to the surface for examination. It was a painstaking process, but one that could yield undeniable evidence of man-made activity. What came up from that shaft, be it soil, artifacts, or structural debris, would be the ultimate confirmation of what lay beneath their feet. They waited anxiously. Each scoop was met with anticipation. Would it be just more dirt? Or something different, something extraordinary? Soon enough, their patience was rewarded. Wood, and not just any wood, planks and timbers of a very particular kind. The grab had surfaced carrying short wooden segments that looked remarkably uniform. To experienced eyes, these weren't random pieces. They resembled the kind of timbers that would have been used in tunnel construction. With tops, bottoms, and side walls, these timbers may have once formed part of a subterranean passage. Suddenly, there were tremors. Were they feeling those vibrations? Yes, rumbling, machinery whirring, metal clanking. Something was happening. Then came the warning. It's caving. The call went out to stop immediately. It was caving in. Hydraulic systems hissed. Holy bleep! After more than 2 centuries of previous treasure hunting activities had left behind countless abandoned tunnels and backfilled shafts scattered beneath the money pit, the ground around and beneath TB1 suddenly began to collapse. This was a huge deal. This is how disasters happen. Looking up into the shaft, it was clear. It was starting to cave. Oh, my God, yes. There was only a certain amount of iron supporting the very heavy oscillator, which was sitting on the ground. If the ground beneath it gave way, the entire system could collapse. The concern was real. This wasn't good. It was a 30-foot drop just right there. That was huge. It was a massive amount of material disappearing. It suggested that something down the hole was swallowing all that material. Tearing down into the shaft, the situation looked grave. Something underground was consuming an enormous amount of material. Would the team be able to advance the caisson any further? The decision had to be made. Was this becoming so unsafe that they needed to remove the oscillator? Did they have to move off the area? This was their #1 priority target. So many issues were now unfolding. Was it still likely they could continue advancing the casing? If it was safe, they wanted to proceed. They weren't ready to quit, not now. So, the plan was to backfill the area. They would monitor the situation every couple of feet to make sure no further caving was happening. But it was certainly a setback. The material kept being lost. There was no guarantee they'd be able to keep advancing. Still, if the ground stabilized and conditions allowed, they'd continue. They'd just see what happens. And just when the team seemed to be closing in on long-sought answers and the fabled treasure vault, their most ambitious operation yet, was suddenly in jeopardy. Would Oak Island prevail once again, keeping its centuries-old secrets buried deep below? Or would the team finally outmaneuver the mystery that had eluded treasure hunters for more than 200 years? One particular piece stood out. It had grooves etched into its surface, and, upon closer inspection, what appeared to be a Roman numeral, specifically the number 3. Even more compelling was the discovery of a dowel embedded within the wood. This dowel bore striking resemblance to those found in a previously discovered U-shaped structure, another clue pointing to deliberate engineering, possibly from centuries past. The construction style and age condition of the